My fiancé was the reigning king of our elite academy, the kind of man whose presence commanded attention in every room he entered. Yet everything began to change the day he was challenged by the only poor student in the entire school. He could not pull himself away from her, and soon he was hopelessly in love. He said she was strong, kind-hearted, and unlike anyone he had ever known, like a ray of light piercing through the monotony of his life. For her, he broke off our engagement, severed all ties with his wealthy family, and moved into the slums to be with her. In the end, he had his so-called freedom and the woman he loved. But eventually, regret began to seep into the cracks of his conviction. The last time I saw Logan Parker before everything fell apart, he was with Ava Morgan shopping for vegetables at a crowded outdoor market. The ground was muddy, the air loud with the clamor of vendors and customers. He stood there looking lost, watching Ava haggle with an old woman over a bunch of scallions. Ava was insistent, asking for the onions to be thrown in for free. The vendor's face twisted with irritation before she waved them off, sneering, "If you can't afford a few cents, maybe you should just go home and drink water." Logan's face flushed deep red, and he turned to walk away, but Ava grabbed his arm and pressed on. "Fine, forget the onions. Just give us one garlic bulb for free." The vendor shoved it into their bag with a scowl, and Ava looked up at him triumphantly. "See, I told you I could do it." He kept his head down, silent, his grip on the bag so tight his knuckles turned white. This was the same man who used to dine on truffle risotto in Michelin-starred restaurants, without glancing at the bill, now bargaining over pennies in the middle of a filthy street. Their driver stood nearby, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Funny, isn't it? The Logan Parker who used to buy sports cars worth millions without batting an eye now has to haggle for garlic." I rolled my window up and turned away. 3 months ago, Logan was still the golden heir of the Parker family. The first time Logan met Ava had been an accident. The Parker family was one of the wealthiest in the state, his father the richest man in the region. As the eldest son, Logan had always been the center of attention, followed everywhere by a pack of hangers-on. Ava, on the other hand, was the only scholarship student in a school where tuition cost hundreds of thousands a year. She and her family lived in a rundown apartment complex on the outskirts of the city, and she was admitted solely for her exceptional grades. On paper, their worlds should never have touched. That changed one afternoon when Logan was bullying a classmate in the courtyard. Ava walked in on it and without hesitation strode forward to shove his raised arm away. She frowned, her voice sharp. "How can you treat another student like this? Just because your family has money doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. Apologize to him." No one had ever dared to lay a hand on Logan before. He froze, stunned by her audacity. From that moment, he made it his mission to provoke her. He teased her, belittled her in front of others, and even ordered her to run errands for him. But no matter what he did, Ava never bowed her head. She might have cried in private, her eyes red and swollen, but she always stood her ground. I do not know when exactly Logan fell for her. Perhaps it was in one of those moments when her eyes brimmed with tears, yet she still refused to surrender. Slowly he began to notice her more. He sought excuses to be near her, finding reasons to speak to her, lingering longer than necessary. Before long, even after classes ended, he refused to ride home in the family's car with me. Instead, he would cram himself onto the city bus, with her fumbling for change like any ordinary boy. He told people Ava was strong, kind, and different. She was, in his words, the light in his life. That was why on my birthday he brought her to me and told me he wanted to end our engagement. His mother, Patricia Parker, nearly fainted from rage. Pointing a trembling finger at him, she shouted, "Have you lost your mind? Of all days you choose today to humiliate Harper. What on earth does this girl have that has bewitched you so completely?" Logan squeezed Ava's hand, his voice steady. "I'm done living in a world of lies. Ava may be poor, but she's nothing like any of you. She's honest, good-hearted, and worth more than Harper could ever be. Harper isn't even fit to carry her shoes." I was stunned. I had never imagined he would say such things to me, the woman he once teased, flirted with, and called his wife-to-be. I thought he liked me. But in that moment, the hatred in his eyes was undeniable, and it cut deeper than any knife. I stood frozen, unable to believe the words spilling from Logan Parker's mouth. This was the man who once teased me with the ease of someone certain of his place in my life, who in moments of shyness and warmth would call me his wife, as though the future was already set. I had thought foolishly that he cared for me, but now the raw disdain in his eyes was so real, so undeniable, that it left me reeling. I turned my gaze to Ava Morgan, my voice cutting through the tension like glass. So this is your idea of kindness, dragging another woman's fiancé to humiliate her on her birthday. You knew Logan and I were engaged. Why are you standing here beside him? Ava's cheeks flushed, but her back straightened with defiance, her chin tilting up. Harper Logan is not some possession you can trade for family advantage. He is a living, breathing man. Even if you two have an engagement, he does not love you. He loves me. You cannot force love, and I hope you can find it in your heart to wish us well. Engagement. I rolled the word around in my mind with a bitter laugh. How had she come to believe ours was some calculated arrangement? Perhaps Logan had told her as much. In truth, there was nothing strategic about it. My family built its fortune in technology, his in the food industry. There was no pressing business reason to unite. We simply grew up together, our parents believing we were a good match. Logan never protested back then, but now he had recast me as the villain who forced him into a life he didn't want. Patricia Parker's face went pale with fury, her body leaning back as though the sheer absurdity of the situation might topple her. Her voice trembled. Logan, take her out of here right now. I am telling you I do not approve of you being with this girl, and you will apologize to Harper immediately. Ava's slender frame shook, yet her head remained high, her voice rich with emotion. Mrs. Parker, you are his mother, but how can you treat him like an object to control? He is your son, but he is not an extension of you. He is a free man with his own mind. Her speech was impassioned, but aside from Logan, who looked at her with eyes alight, no one else in the room seemed impressed. Patricia let out a short, cold laugh, her hands clenching as she fought to rein in her anger. Ask my son if we tied him down or forced him into anything when we arranged his engagement. It was his own mouth that agreed to it. Now you tell me I do not respect him. Who exactly is being disrespectful here? Ava faltered for a moment but pressed on. Times have changed. They are only engaged, not married. You cannot keep him trapped like this. It's no different from a forced marriage. Patricia inhaled deeply, her words sharp. This is my family's business, not something for an outsider like you to meddle in. I truly wonder what kind of upbringing you had that taught you to insert yourself into another couple's relationship. She slammed her hand against the table. Do you even know what shame is? Logan's jaw tightened, his voice rising with anger. I have never loved Harper. Why must everyone keep forcing me before I met Ava? I thought it didn't matter who I was with. But now that I have met her, my heart belongs only to her. Even now I cannot fathom it. Logan had countless ways to end our engagement without humiliating both families. He could have come to me privately and I would have let him go. His parents were not so rigid. They might have allowed him to be with Ava if he had handled it discreetly, but instead he chose to make a public spectacle of it, offering me up as a sacrifice to prove his devotion. By the time it was over, all that remained in his parents' eyes was disappointment. They gave him an ultimatum. If you want to be with her, fine. But from this day forward, you are no longer our son. Everything belonging to the Parker family will have nothing to do with you. Your brother Nathan will be the sole heir. Consider yourself cut off. Without hesitation, Logan gripped Ava's hand tighter. I will never give her up. I will never give her up. Those were the last words Logan Parker hurled into the room before he and Ava Morgan clasped hands and bolted out the front door of the Parker estate, their retreat as theatrical and cheap as a scene from a poorly written drama about love defying all odds. His parents did not soften. Logan had chosen to cut himself off from everything for the sake of one woman, and it broke them in ways they would never admit aloud. The Parker family revoked his inheritance, reclaimed every house, car, and yacht, and froze every account in his name. Still, Logan did not regret it. In his mind, there was something intoxicating, almost romantic about standing against the entire world for love. At least that is what he believed then. The news of what happened spread across campus quickly, and by the time I returned to school, it was all anyone could talk about. Some friends, angry on my behalf, decided to trap Ava in the girls' restroom after class, summoning me as if it were my right to take revenge. When I walked in, she sat in the corner in her worn-out uniform, with seams split at the shoulders, her hair and face wet as though someone had doused her. Yet in her eyes, there still burned a stubborn defiance. Harper, if Logan finds out about this, he will not let you go. I stared at her for a long moment before realizing how pointless this was. I lifted my hand. Let her out. Don't do this again. It's meaningless. I had once cared for Logan, but from the day he humiliated me in front of everyone I knew, there was no hope left. Love was important to me, but it was never my entire life. Ava and I were never part of the same world. I despised her, but I had no desire to trouble her any further. I had just turned to leave when hurried footsteps echoed from outside. Moments later, Logan burst through the door. The moment he saw Ava, his expression twisted with fury. He rushed to her, wrapping her in his jacket, then lifted his head to glare at me with eyes full of contempt. "Harper, I never thought you were this kind of person. I broke off our engagement because I didn't love you. It had nothing to do with Ava. How could you be so cruel?" His hatred was so raw that even though I had let go, my chest tightened with an ache I could not suppress. "I didn't." I began, but he cut me off. "If not you, then who? You still dared to deny it." He touched the red mark on Ava's face, his eyes flaring with loathing. "You hit her, didn't you?" From the moment I stepped inside, I had not laid a finger on her. Yet there she was trembling in his arms, silent, letting him believe I had. Logan's control finally snapped. His eyes turned bloodshot as he lunged forward, his hands closing around my neck. "Whatever you did to her, I will give back to you." My friends rushed in, pulling him away, but he refused to loosen his grip. My face burned my lungs, clawing for air, tears stinging my eyes as I coughed violently. "Let me go, I need to teach her a lesson today," he snarled, still straining against the hands restraining him. Once no one would have dared to stand between him and his rage. But now Logan Parker was a disinherited man. In our world, people are practical to the bone, and his parents had already shifted the entire inheritance to his younger brother Nathan. This was no bluff. Logan had been erased from the circle entirely. My friends laughed as they held him back. "Come on, Parker, you're just roughhousing with classmates, don't get so serious. If Harper got hurt, things would get messy. You can't handle this alone anymore. We're helping you out here." The color drained from his face, the realization settling in that he couldn't touch me now. He wrenched himself free from their grip, pulled Ava close as she sobbed and cast one last venomous look my way. "You disgust me. My greatest regret is ever being engaged to you." I curled my fingers behind my back to hide their trembling, forcing a flawless smile. "Is that so? What a coincidence. I feel the same way." The Parker family had not been bluffing when they promised to cut him off completely. Proof came quickly enough. When the new quarter began for the first time, a teacher stood before the class and named 2 students who had yet to pay their tuition. Logan Parker, Ava Morgan. The teacher adjusted her glasses, her brows knitting in disapproval. "What's your plan?" "This is a school, not a charity. You need to pay your tuition by the end of the week or don't bother coming back." Standing off to the side, I nearly laughed out loud. It seemed the Parker family had put pressure on the school. Once upon a time, no teacher would have dared to address Logan like this. The Parkers were among the school's largest investors, their contributions reaching into the millions. Teachers used to treat Logan as though he were untouchable royalty. Now they were clearly following orders from his family, intent on teaching him a lesson. Logan and Ava stood there under the weight of countless stares. Ava, used to humiliation, merely pressed her lips together and lowered her head without a word. She was on a special scholarship only required to pay for books and uniforms, a modest sum. Logan, however, faced a different reality. His annual tuition exceeded $100,000, with each quarter costing over $25,000. He no longer had that money. His face flushed a deep crimson discomfort, twisting in his expression as he failed to answer. The amount was laughable compared to his old life money he could have burned through in a single night out without blinking. Now he was being shamed publicly over it. His hands curled into fists as he tried to remain composed, turning to one of his former entourage. "Spot me the tuition, for now I'll pay you back." His tone still carried the arrogance of the old days. Back when they all wanted to curry favor with the Parker family, they called him boss with reverence. But now they only smirked and traded glances. "You're putting us in a tough spot, boss. 25 grand isn't much, but how exactly are you going to pay it back?" Another chuckled voice dripping with mockery. "What are you planning to get a part-time job? We couldn't stand to watch that. Honestly, boss, you should take your little girlfriend and transfer to a public school. This place isn't for the 2 of you anymore. Even if you manage this quarter, there will be more to come. You can't expect us to support you forever, can you?" Logan's nature had always been proud and domineering, treating these same boys with casual cruelty in the past. They had swallowed their resentment for years, hoping to benefit from his family name. Now that his power was gone, their buried hostility surfaced like a tide, each jab sharper than the last. Logan froze, staring at the group, who used to follow him without question, sweat beginning to bead on his forehead. I bit back a smile. Today would mark a turning point in his life. From here on out, he would begin to understand the price he'd paid for that so-called freedom and love. Sensing his unease, Ava slipped her arm through his and whispered, "It's okay, Logan. We can work part-time. If that's not enough, I'll ask my boss for an advance." Her voice grew quieter with each word, as though she already knew it would never be enough to cover such a sum. Logan's shoulders trembled, but before he could speak, her eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. She turned toward me. "Harper, you and Logan used to be so close. Why don't you help him pay his tuition?" For a heartbeat, I was caught off guard. The sheer audacity of the request left me momentarily speechless. Then I laughed. "Close? From which angle does it look like we're close?" "Weren't you two about to get married?" she said, her tone laced with genuine surprise. I stared at her, wondering if she was truly that naive, or if she was simply playing the part. I had no desire to prolong the conversation. A slight nod to my friends was all it took for one of them to step forward, arms crossed and a smirk on her lips. "You want money? Not impossible. Just kneel and kiss Harper's shoes, and we'll give you $1,000. That should boost your value, right?" Ava's fist clenched at her sides, anger flickering in her eyes. "How can you be like this? We're all classmates. There's nothing wrong with helping each other. Classmates." My friend's laugh was sharp. "You think you qualify to be friends with Harper? You live in a slum, or did you forget? Or do you think your thick skin makes you worthy?" I met Ava's gaze, my voice calm. "Don't try to wrap your request in moral righteousness. My money is mine. Who are you to judge me for how I use it? If you like asking people for money so much, maybe try standing on the street with a bowl. You'd probably make enough to keep both of you fed. A few $100s a day would be enough to keep the two of them alive." That was what I told her before Logan Parker's eyes hardened with hatred. "You think I need your money, Harper? I can't believe you're this kind of person. You and your friends are all fakes." I smiled faintly. "Fake? That's still better than being the kind who survives on begging others." He went silent, but the weight of everyone's scorn pressed down on him. Logan had lived his life in the center of attention, but now his every breath was under the gaze of disdain. I could see it tearing at him. With a sudden burst of anger, he kicked the table in front of him, snatched up his bag, and stormed out without a word. Eventually, Logan managed to pay the tuition. When he had been disowned, he still had a Vacheron Constantin watch on his wrist. Perhaps his parents had simply forgotten it. Selling it brought him a little over $70,000, just enough to cover the next 3 quarters. One afternoon during recess, I headed toward the rooftop for some quiet, only to find Logan there with Ava Morgan. She was wrapped around him from behind, her voice trembling as she whispered, "Everything you've gone through is because of me. It's my fault. Why is it so hard for us, Logan? It feels like the whole world is against us. Do you regret being with me? Are you going to leave me?" She didn't see the flicker of hesitation cross his face, the way his brows pulled into a deep crease before he sighed and turned to hold her. His voice was soft, unclear, almost as though he were convincing himself as much as her. "I don't regret it. I won't leave you." His eyes lit with a stubborn fire. "They look down on me now, think I'm nothing without the Parkers. But I'll prove them wrong. I don't need my family to stand on my own. I'm not going back, Ava. We'll be fine." She exhaled in relief. "I believe you. Those other girls only liked you because you were the Parker heir. I'm not like them. I love you for who you are. You will succeed, Logan." Watching them cling to each other like tragic lovers, feeding themselves hope, I couldn't help but laugh quietly. How had I never realized he could be so foolish? Logan started looking for part-time work. True to form, he went after high-paying positions, stock analyst, investment manager, jobs far beyond the reach of someone his age and qualifications. He boasted about his knowledge of the market, claiming he could be a top trader, but without the Parker name behind him, no one cared who he was. Employers dismissed him outright, some without even offering an interview. In the end, he had to take a job delivering food riding an old electric scooter that belonged to Ava. Every night after class, he made deliveries. To his credit, he still handed over his earnings to support her. Before, Ava had worked 3 jobs at once. Now she had quit them all. 2 weeks later, one evening after school, I was riding past an alley notorious for its trouble fights, illicit affairs, things better left unseen. I was about to look away from the knot of people gathered there when 2 familiar figures caught my eye. Logan and Ava stood in the corner. Ava, with that same self-righteous fire in her expression, was confronting a group of street punks. "How can you bully another student like this? Apologize to him right now." The boy on the ground, pale with fear, tugged at her skirt. "It's fine, please just go. We were only joking. Don't make this worse." But Ava stood her ground. "Don't be afraid. Just tell us what happened. My boyfriend and I will help you. We'll go tell the teachers right now." The punks laughed in disbelief, as if she had just delivered the punchline to a ridiculous joke. "You gonna snitch on us? Go ahead, we'll be waiting," one sneered, shoving her backward. "Go on, I dare you." Ava stumbled and instinctively clutched at Logan's arm. "Logan, we were just joking. You don't have to be like this," one of the boys muttered, but Ava Morgan didn't flinch. "Don't be afraid," she told the battered boy on the ground. "If something's wrong, just say it. My boyfriend and I will help you. We're going to the teachers right now." The group of street punks erupted in mocking laughter. "Where did this girl come from? You're really going to tattle?" One stepped forward and shoved her. "Go on, tell them. I'll wait." Ava stumbled and instantly clung to Logan Parker's arm. Logan. There were 7 or 8 of them. Just the 2 of them on the other side. Logan wasn't a fool. He frowned, took her hand, and pulled her away. "Let it go. This isn't our business. Let's just go." But Ava's eyes went wide with righteous indignation. "Logan, how can you walk away? He's our classmate." The boy on the ground, nearly in tears, stammered. "Please just go. I'm fine. Do you want to watch me get beaten worse?" "No," Ava said firmly. "Letting this go is helping the bullies. Don't be afraid. We're going to the teachers." "You out of your mind," one of the punks barked, raising his hand to slap her. Ava ducked behind Logan and shouted, "Logan, you have to protect me." Seeing the tension spike, Logan sighed, his voice heavy with reluctance. "Calm down, guys. This is my girlfriend's fault. Let's just forget it. I'm sorry on her behalf." But Ava yanked his shirt, her voice sharp with anger. "Logan, are you even a man? They're about to hit your girlfriend and you apologize. Fight back." She refused to let him leave, and soon he had no choice but to take on the group. He had trained in boxing and Muay Thai. But one man against many never ends well. Within minutes, he was on the ground taking blow after blow. Ava had fled several feet away, screaming and crying, "Stop, please stop." I couldn't help the laugh that escaped me. Once I would have burned with anger at Logan for ending our engagement in front of everyone. Now I was perfectly calm. Ava was his calamity. She had come into his life to ruin him, and she was using the same tactics she'd once used on him, except this time she'd met real street thugs, and no one was going to play along with her script. The irony was almost poetic. She wasn't the one being beaten, he was. The driver leaned toward me. "Should we call the police, miss?" I glanced at Logan, his face bloodied, and a slow smile curved my lips. No, being beaten for the woman you love. He should feel honored. Logan didn't show his face at school for days. Word was his injuries were serious. But the real blow came when Ava quit her part-time jobs. Without her income, if Logan didn't work, they had nothing. Even injured, he dragged himself out to deliver food, struggling to support them both, and on top of that, Ava's parents. Her parents were gambling addicts. Whenever they lost, they took it out on her. Now Logan's hard-earned money had to cover their habits too. In just 2 months, he'd grown gaunt, the arrogance gone from his eyes, replaced with deep lines of exhaustion. After school one afternoon, while some of our classmates climbed into luxury cars, I caught the brief flicker of envy in his gaze. Ava nudged him. "What are you staring at? Let's go, yeah," he muttered, lowering his head as he wheeled out his battered scooter ready for another delivery shift. At the corner, a cat darted into Ava's path, brushing against her ankle. She lit up instantly, crouching down to stroke it. "Snowy's gotten fat. I think she's pregnant. Logan, if she has kittens, let's keep one." Caring for cats had been one of the things that made Logan fall for her. Back then, I used to trap strays, take them to be spayed or neutered, and find them homes. Ava would buy food and treats to give them. Logan thought I was cold and heartless, while Ava was gentle and kind. Now he couldn't even force a smile. The irritation etched deep into his face. Logan Parker rubbed his forehead wearily. "We can barely feed ourselves. How are we supposed to feed a cat? Last week your parents asked me for another $300. and I don't even know where next month's food money will come from." He stopped suddenly, his gaze dropping to the can of cat food in Ava Morgan's hand. "When did you buy that? Where did you get the money?" She didn't notice the shift in his tone, instead beaming as if she'd found some hidden treasure. "I got it on sale. Normally it's 65 cents a can, but I bought 20 cans for 45 cents each. Isn't that a bargain?" Logan stared at her speechless while she kept stroking the cat, cooing softly. "Look at Snowy, so adorable and carefree. Harper once said she wanted to have her spayed, but that's so cruel. How could anyone take away her right to be a mother?" When he stayed silent, she looked up. "Logan," he shut his eyes, trying to hold back his temper, but the pressure that had been building inside him finally erupted. He snatched the can from her hand and hurled it. The cat let out a frightened cry and bolted into the shadows. Ava's voice rose in shock and anger. "Logan, what's wrong with you? You scared her!" His fist clenched, his eyes bloodshot. "Ava, do you have any idea what I've been doing to make money for your parents to feed you? I'm injured and I'm still out there delivering food. We have nothing left, not a single cent. Every dollar I make your parents take for gambling." Her voice sharpened. "I never forced you to support them, and I've always taken care of Snowy. You didn't mind before." Logan's eyes were full of despair as he grabbed her collar. "Who do you think I cut off my family for? Who do you think I got hurt for? If it weren't for you pushing me to humiliate Harper Collins at her own birthday party, would my parents have thrown me out? If it weren't for your reckless stunt with those street thugs, would I have been beaten half to death? They're our classmates. You expect me to just watch someone get bullied and do nothing," she shot back. "Then you should have taken the blows yourself. Don't shove me in front of you. And if you weren't going to call the cops, then what was the point? Just to watch me get beaten?" "I was scared," she argued. "Besides, you weren't hurt that badly. And I'm your girlfriend. You couldn't just watch me get hit, could you?" Their voices rose, each word sharper than the last, until the air between them felt ready to split apart. Finally, Logan's restraint shattered completely. "I regret being with you. Everything I'm suffering right now is because of you." Her eyes brimmed with tears. "I never asked you to stay with me. If you don't want to, you can leave." Something in him seemed to snap and settle at the same time. He looked at her with a strange calm, his voice cold and flat. "Fine, Ava, we're done." Without another word, he tossed his scooter to the ground and walked away. Not once looking back, even as she screamed his name. The love he had given up everything to protect lasted only 3 months a span, so short it felt almost absurd. I had never once doubted Logan Parker's feelings for Ava Morgan. For a man who had been pampered his entire life to endure so much hardship for her was proof enough of how deeply he loved her. But that love turned out to be far too fragile. The moment it faced a real storm, it crumbled. In the end, he realized that what he had thought of as freedom and love was nothing more than a cheap illusion, powerless against the brutal weight of reality. He tried to go back home, but the gates of the Parker estate remained firmly shut. Logan had a younger brother, Nathan Parker. Since childhood, their relationship had been strained at best. Logan had always looked down on Nathan, finding excuses to mock or belittle him whenever he could. He once claimed Nathan might seem mild and unambitious on the surface, but deep down, he was always looking for a way to undermine him. Nathan was 2 years younger, and from the start, their parents had intended for Logan to inherit the family business, while Nathan would live a life of comfort without the burden of responsibility. But Nathan had never been content with that role. And now, with the perfect chance in front of him, there was no way he would allow Logan back into the family. No one knew exactly what Nathan told their parents, but whatever it was, it worked. They had lost all faith in Logan, and no matter how he pleaded, they refused to let him return. "You once said family didn't matter as much as that girl," his father told him coldly. "This is the path you chose, and now you have to live with it." With nowhere else to go, Logan came to me. Since the night he had humiliated me by breaking off our engagement in front of everyone, this was the first time he had lowered his head to me. Perhaps the months of misery had stripped away some of that proud arrogance. "Harper," he began, his voice unsteady. "Calling off the engagement at your birthday party was the stupidest thing I've ever done. I hurt you, and I was wrong." Once Logan had been the perfect picture of the handsome, arrogant heir, like a leading man out of a drama about the rich and untouchable. Now he stood in front of me humbled, asking for something he no longer had the right to ask for. I didn't look at him, keeping my tone flat. "It's fine. Whatever I went through doesn't compare to what you've faced. I heard you've been working odd jobs, even got beaten up. You've had it worse than me. His hands tightened into fists, as if he were swallowing back his pride. Yes, I've learned my lesson. I won't act rashly again. Let's restore our engagement. I promise I'll never treat you the way I did before. I'm sorry, Harper. Please, can we start over? I gave a short, sharp laugh. You must be dreaming. I'm the sole heir to Collins Enterprises. And you? What exactly are you now that makes you think you can talk to me about marriage? He bit down on his lip, trying to keep his temper. My parents only disowned me because I broke off our engagement. If we got back together, they wouldn't oppose me anymore, and I could still inherit the Parker fortune. That was when it finally clicked for me why he had chosen Ava in the first place. From beginning to end, they were the same kind of person, selfish, shameless, and perfectly matched in their lack of conscience. I stood looking down at him with pure disdain. Logan Parker, I don't know where you found the nerve to say this to me. When you were chasing your so-called love, you didn't care about my dignity or my family's name. You humiliated me in front of everyone. And now that you want back into your house, you think you can just come here and ask for our engagement back. My voice dropped cold and precise. Who do you think you are? Do you really believe the whole world exists to serve you, that the universe should revolve around you? Logan Parker's face flushed a deep red with humiliation. No, Harper. I really do regret it now. Ava Morgan isn't who I thought she was. She's nothing but a fraud. Yes, I cut him off sharply, my voice dripping with disdain. I'm a fraud. Your parents are frauds. Ava Morgan is a fraud. Only you, Logan Parker, are the one who's not. I gave him a cold, humorless smile. Why don't you just do us all a favor and disappear? You disgust me. The biggest mistake of my life was ever being engaged to you. In the end, Logan never returned to the Parker estate. In his mind, everything was Ava's fault. If she hadn't seduced him, he never would have ended up in this mess. His affection turned into bitterness, and to exact his revenge, he got back together with her, only to mistreat her deliberately. When she became pregnant, he abandoned her without hesitation. The shock and heartbreak led to a miscarriage. Ava's once impressive academic record crumbled, and eventually she was expelled. Her family couldn't afford to transfer her to another school, so she had no choice but to give up on her education and start working. The next time I saw her was on a freezing winter afternoon. She was standing on a crowded sidewalk handing out flyers. The wind had turned her pale cheeks red, and she wore a worn scarf, shivering as she tried to press leaflets into the hands of disinterested strangers. Grand opening of Lux Hair Studio. Spend $1,000 and get $300 free. Take a look, she said to a passerby who brushed her off irritably. I said no, are you deaf? He snapped, pushing her aside. I sat in the warmth of my car, watching her for a moment before rolling the window up. I no longer felt much hatred toward Ava. She had already paid for what she'd done. If anything, I owed her a strange sort of gratitude for showing me who Logan truly was. The memories of our childhood together, once sweet, now only filled me with disgust. Logan eventually finished his final year of high school, but with no financial support from his family, he had to work part-time to survive. His grades never recovered, and in the end, he could only afford to attend a low-cost community college. Meanwhile, his younger brother, Nathan Parker, followed the path their parents had laid out for Logan, enrolling at Harvard Business School, and upon graduation taking over the family empire. 5 years later, I earned my master's degree and returned home to take over my own family's company. I had a boyfriend by then, someone whose family matched mine in status, someone kind, respectful, and steady. The past no longer touched my life in any way. That evening, my boyfriend came to pick me up in his black Rolls-Royce. As we stopped at a red light, we were discussing weekend plans. How about we try that new place on 5th and Harrison, he suggested. They've got a Michelin 3-star rating. I hear their steaks are incredible. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of a man on an old yellow electric scooter wearing a worn delivery uniform. He was tall, but hunched over, his posture awkward. His gloves were dirty, and he rubbed his nose with the back of his sleeve before tucking his hands back into his sleeves for warmth. Logan Parker. It had been years since I'd last seen him. Over time, the Parkers in my family had grown distant. I'd heard rumors that his parents had tried to bring him back into the fold, but Nathan, now firmly in control, had refused. Logan had been completely cast out. The once handsome, confident young man I'd known was now gaunt and frail, the kind of figure the winter wind could blow away without a trace. For a moment, nostalgia washed over me, leaving me oddly unsettled. I wondered if I was imagining things. But when the window slid down, he must have felt my gaze. Amid the blur of headlights and traffic, our eyes met. His head jerked away as though my glance had burned him, yet just seconds later he turned back cautiously, his lips moving faintly as if he wanted to say something. The light turned green. The Rolls-Royce surged forward, leaving the little scooter far behind, and within moments he was gone from sight. I never did hear whatever it was he might have been about to say. Harper, my boyfriend, called gently, noticing my silence. I smiled, lacing my fingers through his. It's nothing. Whatever's become of Logan Parker, it has nothing to do with me anymore. In the end, everyone pays for their own recklessness and foolish choices. Once upon a time, Logan had sworn he would never regret what he'd done. I can't help but wonder, when the past comes to him in the quiet hours of the night, does he regret it now so much that it crushes him?